And I'm back. I hope you guys have been doing great as we kick off the new year with this week. And I like to think that, oh wow, trickling in, flowing in, things are going great, starting the year off strong. Thank you everyone for tuning in and fellowshipping with us. I know that 2020 was really long and we start in 2021 off perfectly. If you don't know, I'm your host for the show 2050 and Beyond, Jaimir, as you can see here. I go to Howard University, and once again, Howard University, and we are representing Clever Communities in Action, whose mission is to push culturally affirming literature as well as culturally affirming media, hence us being here. And basically what 2050 and Beyond serves to do is give an outlet for HBCU students to sort of give back to our communities through a realm of discussion on certain subjects that pertain to the Black community. And this week we're doing medical empire, the Western medical empire, and all of that entails. So it's a heavy subject sometimes when we speak of it, because a lot of times about the atrocities and trauma that's happened to Black people, but we try to make sure that it's in a way that is affirming and respectful, but gets to the point and allows people to understand that these things did happen. Now, as we continue on, if the topics are a little bit heavy for someone viewing, we completely understand, and we don't ever want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. So that is to be kept in mind as we go through this week. Tuesday, we had the same disclaimer in the beginning, and we talked about some of the histories, as we always do, in contextualizing something, so we can start off our pondering. And so we use Tuesday as a springboard to go onward. And today, we have a great cast of individuals. I'm pretty excited about it because a lot of people were saying it's always Howard this and Howard that. Well, now we got a little bit of the AUC in here, and it's not just Kalia this time. So we're expanding. We're adding another HBCU to the family, another HBCU to the show, and another friend that's coming in and just fellowshipping with us. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're still early on. We want to make sure everyone gets in the conversation. But before we get to the conversation, we need to do something else, and that's get this affirmation from Shania.
Greetings, virtual villagers. My name is Shania, and do you know what time it is? It's affirmation time! Time to remind ourselves how great we are. So everybody, repeat after me. I am smart. I have purpose. I am confident. I am valuable. My voice is worthy of being heard. I am an asset to my family, school, and community. I respect myself and I respect others. I am beautifully made inside and out. I love my beautiful hair and I love my beautiful brown skin. I am more than enough. Great job, virtual villagers. Can I get a virtual high five? Great job. And always remember how fantastic you are.
Always love to have Shania open us up like that, because that sets the tone for the rest of the night. If you haven't noticed, the intro to 2050 and Beyond, it's, modeled after what you would hear at an HBCU football game. So the intensity is already off. Then Shania comes in and lets everyone understand what type of programming this is. And we love her for that. Thank you, Shania, for that powerful affirmation. And now we get into within our nation, within our union. You see the way that the wordplay is just coming together. I was rusty coming in Tuesday. Now I'm catching the stride. Everything is flowing. So within our union is a piece where we like to just talk about things that are happening around the African diaspora and sort of show that we're a global community when we speak of the Black community. And to start things off, the elephant in the room as Black Americans, there was an occurrence in Washington D.C. where white supremacists went to the Capitol and staged a sit-in and were just, rioting. Luckily, no Black people were hurt. That's an America thing. Black America was cool on that. Black America is good. We're just doing really well. In Georgia, the state is now blue in reference to the Senate. Warnock won his race by not a landslide, but hefty enough to where it's clear. And then Ossoff, his was more close, and there may be another potential runoff for the runoff. I know it's crazy, right? So, but Black Americans, once again, came through when it came to voting and electoral politics, and the organizers in Atlanta definitely need their props and respect. So we just give all the flowers to you. We know you mobilize the people a lot, and you've been doing that for several years, as well as just understanding that what's going on in Atlanta doesn't stop here, because now you Black Americans have gotten them in office. We expect returns on that. And before those returns even come, the organizers are still out there making sure that the people are met. So shout out to Atlanta, and thank you to everyone in DC. I hope you guys are being safe and just continue to remain safe. Now, going to the continent, in Senegal, speaking of protests, right? The country has seen protests over the recent implementation of a 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew announced by President Sall on Wednesday. The protests were mainly in the district of Ngor within the city of Dakar, which is the capital of Senegal, with other protests occurring in Medina and Yoff, as well as Pikine, Guadiawaye, and Thiaroye. So as you can see, the people in Senegal are really just very upset about the recent curfew. And a little bit more, Senegal has done a fairly well job with their COVID-19 response, with approximately 20,000 cases and 433 reported deaths. And the protests come from citizens who believe that they will be unable to provide for themselves and their families because the curfews restrict them from working, with one person saying that he's a nighttime driver, and if the curfew is from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., he won't be able to drive at night anymore. So he has to, shift a lot of things for him. So we wish the best for the Senegalese people, and that the COVID cases and deaths stay down, but also that the people can continue living their lives and making sure that they have food on the table. Then, staying in West Africa, during the Ghanaian presidential season, right? A lot of presidents getting elected and voted on. Combating misinformation was a large part of GhanaFact's mission. The team faced funding issues and dynamic informational flow, which means sometimes there was too much information and other times there was not enough. In the months leading up to December 7th, it handled things fairly well. This is a great sign for the digital age and information in Africa as a whole, because what GhanaFact was doing was making sure that anything that may be seen as inflammatory to the presidential election and just false or flat out just harmful for the Ghanaian people was fact checked. And we need that a lot, especially understanding that as Americans, we have a lot of quote unquote fake news circling. So good to see that GhanaFact is getting ahead of that before they even have to worry about anything else. Now, earlier I mentioned, and when I say earlier, not today, so you've been watching 2050 and Beyond for a couple weeks. You remember that I talked about how a Kenyan doctor had passed away, made transition due to COVID-19, and he was a father of a very young child, as well as a husband, but he was more so a person, and he was a human being. And the Kenyan doctors went on protest due to the fact that they didn't have any equipment to handle the influx of COVID cases, as well as they weren't getting paid, among other things. So things have progressed since then, and Kenyan doctors were being overworked with inadequate equipment and without pay. This led to doctors going on strike, continuing their strike, demanding for a better work environment. And this Wednesday, right, the situation sort of reached a vital point, with the government of Kenya dismissing 86 doctors because of their striking. And that leads many questions as to whether or not these doctors are going to get retroactive pay, because they were working until they were fired and they still deserve to be compensated. And Due to the fact that 86 doctors were basically dismissed because they're practicing their right to make sure they have decent wages, doctors and nurses who have been facing the same situation in Kenya have stated that the move was illegal, that they will continue to advocate for better conditions. And what way to advocate for that is doctors and nurses are striking together. And this is a constant working and class struggle. This is a huge health hazard, and we just hope that the Kenyan government finds a way that is suitable to make sure everyone's needs are met, the doctors, the nurses, as well as the citizens affected by COVID-19 and the general populace. So we wish a lot of blessings to the people in Kenya, and to the striking workers, we stand with you, and we just hope that everything transitions smoothly, because we don't want to see any more people pass away from this. So moving to the Republic of Congo, the Chinese government has agreed to waive some of the debt owed by the Democratic Republic of Congo during a Kinshasa visit with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Minister Wang Yi's trip around Africa. He's visiting 5 countries, and this is part of the China-Africa Research Initiative, in which, well, the Chinese government gives loans to the several African governments in order to build infrastructure. And in relation to the debt being waived, in the DRC, the amount was unspecified, so we don't know how much was waived, but hopefully it's a substantial amount. So that way, with COVID basically tanking many nations' economies, the DRC can sort of get back on their feet, as well as use the infrastructure and then pay that back. Then China has extended roughly $2.4 billion to Kinshasa, which is the capital of the DRC, in order to build infrastructure within the region since 2000. This is vital infrastructure. And if you remember, I mentioned that in Nigeria, China had helped finance the Ibadan-Abuja Railway, which is the first of its kind and only of its kind in the West African region. So we see a lot of infrastructural projects being built with the help of China. So it's good to see that some of the debt is being waived as well, and because there are many claims of Chinese imperialism within Africa, but I feel like waiving debt is a pretty good sign of good faith. Still on the continent, but moving a little bit lower in South Africa, South Africa will receive 1 million vaccines in January from the Serum Institute of India, said the South African Health Ministry on Thursday, with an additional 500,000 delivered in February. This comes as a boon due to the fact that a new variant of the COVID-19 virus was found recently in South Africa. So we hope that those vaccines go out and the people are safe. Now, speaking of COVID-19, and not in the sense of a vaccine, but in a more local remedy. That's right. The Tanzanian government has announced that it will not seek any variation of the COVID-19 vaccine, and instead will be focusing on local herbs to combat the virus. Tanzania is among one of the first countries to be ordering the Madagascar COVID herb, and herb or herb, depending on if you put emphasis on your H's or not. I do. So the Madagascar COVID herb. And Tanzania has been rather quiet about their COVID response, so international reports are still uncertain outside of the country. But the country has declared that it is COVID-free and did not place a curfew or confinement on any of its people. So that's a good sign, and we just wish that the people of Tanzania are staying safe and they're well. And then finally, ending in the Caribbean, because it's a Pan-African thing. We've been on the continent. We've been in America, and now we're going to the Cayman Islands to finish off. With the Cayman Islands, government has received its first shipment of the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine on Tuesday, with 9,750 doses arriving on the British Airways flight. And this comes because the COVID response in the islands has been hindered by the West, with, I know, the U.S. blocking Jamaica from receiving some COVID vaccinations. So it's good to see that the people of the Caribbean are being able to assess this vaccine that is life-saving. So, talking a lot about COVID-19, covered the diaspora, that was within our union so far. And now I get to do that thing I do where I segue from the topic to our sponsors. And if basically when we do, and now a word from our WHO later on, trust me, all 6 of them are going to be on the screen and be like our sponsors, and they're going to bring energy, because I've been seeing your comments and you've been saying, why is Joseph so laid back and why is Obi so lackadaisical? Trust me. We were there. We had a meeting. Everything's going to be great. So that way, when we bring the information to you, it's going to be muy bien. So now, a word from our sponsor.
Buying or selling a home doesn't have to be difficult. At the James Allen Group, we work tirelessly to get families into homes and to get our listings sold quickly at the best price. James Allen, our principal broker, has over 30 years of experience as a realtor. As a U.S. Navy veteran, his knowledge of Hampton Roads and its community is a vital tool in meeting the home buying needs of military families. If you're ready to buy or sell your home, contact the James Allen Group at 757-449-8322. Sign up today for our free home buyer or seller seminar at jamesallengroup.com.
Hey, howdy. Oh wow. Sorry if you can't see, I'm just a little excited because it's still bright out over here where I am. So I'm just waiting on golden hour or some. But this is what we're gonna do, right? Basically, some of us have subpar memories, myself included, and we're sort of waiting for a recap because we're like, what's gonna happen? What are we doing today? We're talking about the future, but before we can talk about the future, we need to understand the past as well as our present to see where we're going. And that's when I bring on my two historically majoring friends, and they sort of help me re-up on some things. So first one I'm going to bring on is a good friend of mine. He's very energetic. I truly love this brother. He always makes me smile, makes my soul feel good. And it's Obiora Okiki. See, look, I said he was always energetic. Look at the energy. Look at him. Just smiling and happy and everything. All right now. Woo!
Hi, how are you?
Energetic. See,
I'm good.
That is what I needed. So, how have you been, Obi?
I've been good.
Absolutely, man.
A little tired, but I'm here. I'm awake. I'm ready.
I couldn't even tell you were tired. The energy is flowing. I feel it. Like, woo! Great. I'm loving the energy. How are you been?
I'm good. I've been doing good. I've been good. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Well, thank you, Obi. Wow, your energy is fusing into me right now. I feel it. It's all over. It's all over me. All right, but another friend of mine that I'm really excited to see because we got Obi here. Obi's been a day one, but now we need someone here who's just always on the show, like he's getting perfect attendance. We know you didn't miss a day in school. Woo! Who we got coming? Who we got coming for us? Joseph Sturgeon III.
Obi couldn't even say my thing.
I was waiting for you to come in, and you was just awkwardly long coming in, but it's okay. It's okay.
I mean, it's whatever. I'm here.
Ain't that right? We are present.
Hello, Obi.
Hello.
Absolutely. I am so excited. I feel the energy in the room. Like I just can't stop smiling. Like, oh my God. Brothers, we made it to 2021. We got one more week of the show. Y'all been doing it like 5 weeks, bro.
5 weeks.
Yes.
It feels like way longer.
Well, that's
Next
because
week,
when you build a bond like this, it's so beautiful. But before we talk about our bond, let's talk about the bond that we have with Tuesday and give the people a recap.
This man adjusting the camera mid-show.
We told him about it too. We was like, hey, bro, your light be in the camera. Just get a box or get like a book. You know what I'm saying? He's sitting there like, nah, bro, I got it. Then he gonna wait till the day he on the camera.
Is it fine? Is it fine? But is it fine?
Is it fine? You tell me. It's your camera.
Yeah, it's fine. So
everybody in the comments clowning you, bro. They saying it's not fine at all.
No one is in the comments saying anything. You always do this. You just talk.
Okay, whatever. So basically, what did we talk about on Tuesday? Since all I do is talk, why don't y'all do some talking?
We talked about medical racism and its effect on Black people in America and abroad in the Africas and the global South. You want me to go on?
Yeah, like yeah.
We talked about the Tuskegee effect, the Tuskegee trials. We talked about how ways that we can implement ways the vaccine can become more palatable to the.
And we talked about Black people's in America's are like just very much tediousness about our skepticism about taking the COVID vaccine. And we had a survey between everybody that was on the show on Tuesday and asked whether or not we would take it right now. And I think
Absolutely not.
it was like a 5 out of 6 no's. So there was also that.
We talked about the father of gynecology too.
Yeah, and we also spoke briefly. I thought he was going to talk. We spoke briefly on Johns Hopkins and like what they did to Henrietta Lacks. We didn't really touch on the fact that a lot of Be More people, they seem to believe that just they used to go out and steal Black people's limbs and they would end up missing. So that's another thing in total. We also talked about how Black people have been historically experimented on, kind of like animals throughout modern history.
Yeah, pretty much.
A lot of stuff.
So
Definitely.
just talking about the Western medical empire, and we sort of strayed away from the Africana response to that, which if you are on the show today, then you get that response. And there's a reason why I mentioned Tanzania, and it's because I'll get onto that a little bit later. But now that I'm caught up, now that I'm a little bit refreshed, just feeling real good, I really want to thank you guys for being with me for all of these days, Tuesdays, Thursdays, prep days, just for being here with me. I really appreciate it, guys. I love you guys. Thank you. And now, a word from our who?
A word from our sponsors.
I told you I was going to get them right. Woo!
Yes.
Hey everyone, it is Tasha Turnbull here, owner of T2 Fitness, and I am bringing to you all the Homebody Series. The Homebody Series was created because we are now more so at home, but guess what? I want us to feel connected. I want us to feel strong together. I want us to sweat together, and I want us to build our healthiest bodies possible. So we're going to be bringing you live workouts that you can do in the mornings, in the evenings, on the weekends, anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes. They're going to be low impact workouts, high impact workouts, but guess what? No matter what your fitness level is, all workouts are going to be able to accommodate wherever you are along your fitness journey. So make sure you join us because we need to work out, we need to be strong, and we can do this all from home.
And we're back. So this is the fun part, right? Like this is the fun part, because now we've heard from our sponsors some, but now we get to hear from the people. Now we get to see basically people who have a little bit more insight on things than we do. So I'm gonna start it off like this. I'm gonna introduce everyone. And I just need you guys to be there. I need you guys to be excited with me when I introduce these people, because these are really close friends of mine. They said that the show was too Howard centric. They said that the show had too many Bison. They said it was.
I was going to say men.
Yeah, they said it was too Howard centric. There was a lot of boys, a lot of men on the show. And you know what I did? I was like, say less. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna get the smartest people I know, and that was the hard part, because I know a lot of smart people, but I got the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop. I got the crown jewels of the crown jewels. You know what I'm saying? You've heard of diamonds in the rough. Well, now we got platinum diamonds in the diamonds of the rough. These are like pure
platinum diamonds in the diamond of the.
You don't even know.
Okay.
The first person I'm going to bring on is a familiar face. It's someone that we all know, someone who's been here in the streets with us, from the virtual streets of 2050 and beyond, the virtual village streets, also the streets of Newport News, Hampton, 757, Virginia, the streets of AUC, virtually, but still out there. It's our good friend Kalia.
Hi, Kalia.
That is so amazing how you doing all this and we can't hear you. That is so powerful. That is so powerful. Like Like, even though I can't hear her,
Make sure you gave your search engine the permission to use the microphone. That might be.
There we go. There we go. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't gonna use a computer science major.
You hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Hey, I would just like to personally say, Jameer, you have me very, very, very much in laughter. Like I'm in tears. Your energy has me in tears.
Because Obi came in with the energy, and then look at them vibrating, bro. Look at them bubbling, bro.
It's them with the straightest of faces for me. That's what's happening.
We need that. We need that in the house.
I love how you're up here. We got you. We're gonna come up there with you.
You know what it is. See,
I'm saying, look, you're up here. We're right here right now.
Everybody's up here. Y'all remember what we said about the show. This is where everybody at, bro. We up here.
Like
gone. We is gone.
Yeah.
Gone.
Okay.
Gone. Woo! So the next person I'm gonna bring on, hey, bro, is another friend of mine who's in the AUC. It's she goes to Spelman, and I would say like a lot about Jalen's achievements, but it's hard to because there's so many. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta. It's like having a list that just keeps on rolling. So I'm just gonna start where I know Jalen from, and then Jalen gonna just say what she be doing because Spelman women, right? So I met Jalen in AXO, and Jalen went to nationals with me in Detroit. So I've known Jalen the longest out of anybody else on the show right now, personally. And without further ado, Miss Jalen White, how you doing, bro?
Hi, hello everyone.
What's up?
Jalen,
I need to
too.
Yeah, well, let me officially introduce myself. My name is Jalen White. I'm a biochemistry major, mathematics minor on the pre-med track from Spelman College.
Absolutely. Now, Jalen, didn't you get into a program?
Yes, I'm currently a YSTEM scholar, one of 14 now in my cohort year. Ethel Waddell get the honors program associate. I'm also a debater, speech competitor, competed in a couple of, one of the biggest national tournaments early on in the semester and working towards a national ranking.
Okay.
We gotta cool off after this one. We gotta cool off after that.
Hey, just so much. The last person that would okay. Dr. Quarles out here. Just Dr. Quarles is basically repping Detroit, the West Side, Cass Tech. Shout out to the D. I think Detroit has one HBCU, but it's is it closed now? I'm glad to see that we all knew that answer. We'll have it next week, most definitely. My mom says hey, but she spelled your name wrong.
Hello.
You're correct. But like I said, we have a full house, guys. This is a full house. We have the people from the AUC, but this is a Howard production mostly. So I like to keep a 2-to-1 ratio. This last person is a good friend of mine. They're based in the Bay Area. Dr. Coral says there's no HBCU in Detroit. So good to know.
Ain't it a 1-to-1 ratio?
It's a 2-to-1 ratio.
God, that's ridiculous. Actually, there's so many of it. Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of Howard people. I think we had like 30 of us, and we're about to have 31. It's another Bison. They have a STEM degree, which is one of the reasons why they're on here. They have a huge dearth of medical knowledge. If you were watching the Kwanzaa show, then you already know who this person is. They came in and they shared a little bit about themselves. They're an activist in their communities. They're a scholar in their own right. I believe they're just doing a lot right now in this virtual setting and bringing a lot of the energy. So I'm gonna bring in my last person.
It sounds like you got a
Kimyala. You muted, bro.
Hey, hi. Sorry.
I'm so happy to be here with you guys. Like, I just love the energy that everybody is bringing. Like, do y'all not feel that? Like, it is so
I
upbeat.
feel
Like,
something.
I feel it.
Like, look at Jody right there. He is vibrating on a different plane.
Are you
That
sure?
is absolutely amazing.
Are you
Like,
sure?
absolutely. Look at just that is my guy. That's my guy. Just I'm loving the energy. But
Wait, Jamir, can we see your shirt though, real quick?
absolutely, hey, let him know. Let him know. Let him know. What school? What school? What school? HU? You know?
Why Obi looking like that?
Okay, Obi. So you're behind and you're getting cut. Because
I do enough of representing Howard in my free time.
but you
Y'all
can't do it for
have
me.
it now.
You can't do it for me.
Y'all have it covered.
Bet that.
Twin shirts and everything. What do I gotta do?
Because that's twin.
That's my cousin, bro.
Absolutely, that's my cousin right
Cousin or
there.
twin? Which one?
Both, okay.
Jesus.
Anyway, I'm really excited to start this up because we are talking about the Western medical imperialism, and we discussed about how this is going to be an Africana response to the years, centuries really, of Western medical imperialism. And there's a reason why I mentioned Tanzania, because they're going to not use any of the vaccinations, which are mostly made in industrialized countries, which is just another word for countries that have had excessive Western influence in infrastructure. So the Tanzanian route is to sort of use the Madagascar herb to counteract that. And it gets into the question of understanding that non-Western medicines and practices are rather frowned upon because of the technology of the West, but they're still very effective because we don't remember Wanzimus, he taught Western people how to vaccinate themselves in the beginning. So understanding that there are a lot of non-Western medicines that are still out there that are exceptionally effective, and they also are, well, they aren't as hazardous towards the environment because they come directly from the environment. What is one way that we can educate ourselves and communities about these these non-Western remedies, or these quote-unquote home remedies, so that we can alleviate much of the healthcare stress from Africana people? Hand-raising system as well.
I can go first.
Go ahead then.
This is one of the things that I kind of read up on this semester about how just Western centered everything in the world is, how we've kind of gone global with a lot of these ideas. And we have really no choice but to believe the facts that are put in place by the mythical norm. So there was a piece by Ruth Hubbard called Fact Making and Feminism. And this mythical norm that she talks about includes white, Anglo-Saxon, financially stable men who have the greatest access to education. So we have been forcefully, as a people, assimilated into these Western medicine practices. And we have shied away from the alternative and traditional medicine that actually originated in Africa. So tying in what you brought to us about Tanzania and East Africa. So I don't have any negative opinion on them choosing not to do with the vaccine, because the medical practices that were evolved from those herbal remedies, those plant-based diets that were really centered around healing people, about spiritual and physical healing. But since we have assimilated into this Western culture and this Anglosphere that we are trapped in, we really don't have any wiggle room when it comes to this alternative medicine. And there's not a lot of doctors, and nevertheless, Black doctors and physicians in that alternative medicine. You see everybody in osteopathic medicine because it pays the most, it's the most practical, it has the most technology. But people don't realize that we in the African diaspora have completely shied away from where we came from.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you said African diaspora, because a lot of people would think that non-Western means that somewhere outside of the US, but a lot of people's grandparents are using the same remedies that their grandparents who came from Africa directly off the boat used to combat lots of common sicknesses. I know, and it might sound strange because I remember my great grandmother, she said that to get rid of, I think it was chicken pox, the only thing you had to do was just put like a toad under your tongue and you would be good after that. Me, I grew up in an era where chicken pox wasn't real, so I didn't have to do that. My parents and my grandparents, they had to do that and it worked. So it's just a lot of the times people don't look towards home remedies for certain things because it's like they don't trust their elders, nor do they trust other black people when it comes to medicine. And as you said, it's because it's an assimilationist ideology where, oh, okay, this white person in a lab coat knows more about my health than anybody else. And you realize that the black people who are in your community grow up with the same problems, grow up with the same lifestyle, and probably the same diet and same conditions as you. So, of course, they know more how to help you at a cheaper price, but people associate high charges with better, and that's typically how a lot of us get fleeced. So, thank you, Jayla, for that word. Just doing great. I got you. Bam.
Okay, so I'm a little critical of that. I'm not gonna lie.
This guy.
I feel like natural remedies should be used in conjunction with, I would maybe, I don't know how to say it. I don't want to say pharmaceuticals because those have problems, but more, let me say advanced science. Because like you said, or like it was mentioned, like you said, it's based off of those like science, like what pharmaceutical drugs are based off of those traditions and those, I would say, herbs and those natural remedies. They're just intensified. Like they'll take extract from trees and then intensify it to the point where it is times 10 its power or strength. And at that point, it can cause issues. And that is where a lot of the negatives come from. But I simultaneously feel as though there's a reason why that was done. Like, I feel like the first push in that direction may be because traditionally, or what we were doing before may not have been working as well. So I feel like, in my opinion, the best balance would be to be living a healthy plant-based lifestyle based on those traditions, but also incorporating science when necessary, because I don't feel like no, it's hard to put into words. I feel like relying.
Take your time, brother. Take your time, brother.
Because based off where we live now, right, with all the negative environmental aspects that we have in our health, like pollution or just food in general, like food is heavily modified. To rely on those traditions now, I'm not so sure that they would have the same effectiveness in our environments today. So, which is why I'm kind of like, some of these chemicals, some of these other more scientific, more advanced, or not more advanced, more, intensified remedies may be necessary to combat our in this day and age issues.
Which is completely valid.
I definitely see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Me personally, I follow like a lot of vegan and alkaline pages, so I'll be seeing kind of like the home remedies that they be doing, a whole lot of turmeric, a whole lot of ginger and stuff like that. And I feel like that stuff works to an extent. Like we all have at-home remedies that we all do, like your grandma telling you to get some saltine crackers and some ginger ale, and that kind of fix everything. Putting some vapor rub on your chest and that can cure your asthma. It's just a lot of home remedies that we do, and they work. But like Obi said, it's certain things that you might just need some type of modern medicine for. Not all of it, just some of it. Like some of the stuff you can't just cure with a can of ginger ale and a couple of Ritz crackers. Some of that stuff you might need a little IV work, a little penicillin with it. But I feel like everything is to discussion. Like I know people take elderberry syrup to boost their immune system, and they do a lot of. I remember Miss Star gave me and Jamir that wellness shot with all that ginger, turmeric, and cayenne. And
hey, bro, I still feel that on my chest. That was working.
I still feel it burning to this day. That was like in September. It's still hot.
I ain't felt sick since. I
think that's the cure to COVID. If we really want to talk about it, I think she got the cure to COVID in that one shot. But I feel like finding those remedies is all about just following the right pages, talking to the right people, and getting into with the right type of lifestyle. Like Obi said, just plant-based and the way you eat it. But As they do, they feel like you rub vapor rub on your throat, and all of a sudden you don't have thyroid cancer anymore. But it just
That's what I'm saying.
it's discretion. Like, watch those home remedies, but also take it into discussion because not everything is used to cure everything.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that we talked about this and Obi brought it in a way where it's not like one or the other, but it's a synthesis of the two. And while I feel like it'd be rather difficult for people to go on a plant-based diet just because of like monetary restrictions as well as where they live and the conditions of being black, but I think that a synthesis of the two as well as understanding like, well, is rubbing like cabbage on your like legs going like cure your swollen knees? Probably not. But you know, if you just like, you have to use sense with it. You have to use sense with it. And Dr. Quarles mentions that there's a placebo effect, in which happens a lot. Some people take medicine simply because they want to feel better, and the medicine might not do anything, but they think they're feeling better, so they do. And that is medicine in the Western and non-Western sense. And then he mentions this and he says evidence-based therapies which address efficacy and safety. How do these various therapies cross-react? And this is more of a complex question here, but I think we can address that in the sense that if you are synthesizing these non-Western tactics as well as these Western ones, and they sort of cross it, and they, you know, because it's affecting your body and, you know, your systems. So you're going through the various amount of changes, and you might be able to take the medicine by itself, but then when you start mixing them, now your body is going in like limbo and doing backflips. So it's kind of like understanding what exactly you're doing and doing the correct research from reputable sources. And that's going to be really difficult, especially getting into non-Western medicine, because it's really difficult finding a genuine source due to the fact that a lot of it has been downplayed and seen as superstition. But I know that like rubbing Vicks Vapor Rub on your chest and just taking a shot of ginger ale, and you ain't gonna be sick for that whole month. So it works. Trust me. The Vapor Rub, ginger ale, and a humidifier, you'll be good. That's the cure to COVID.
That's got over a code.
If that's the cure to COVID, then why are we talking about this vaccine?
Because you know the vaccine is a money generator. It's a money generator.
We can talk about that.
For real, our grandmas could have been cured COVID. If we really talking about it, our grandparents could have been did this. You know.
One major issue is that a lot of advanced remedies only treat symptoms and not the actual problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And thank you, because this is how we get into our next question, actually, and it's that understanding that the Western medical system isn't meant to keep people healthy, but it's more so to be combative instead of preventive. So the medicine doesn't really make you feel better; they just lessen the symptoms. Because when you're sick, the symptom is just like, okay, you have a runny nose. It does nothing about the cold. It's just your nose is going to start running while your cells actually fight off. So how do we sort of, looking at the medical system that we're in now, how do we go toward a healing system of preventative care instead of combative care? And understanding that it is an Africana tradition to heal people before they get sick, instead of the Western tradition of letting a person work, get sick, charge them money for a cure, and then the cycle continues maybe next year or the year after. And who would like to go first?
It's kind of like recidivism.
I see you, Kimmy.
I think first you have to acknowledge that the medical system is profiting in capitalism, so they're not going to move forward in trying to heal anything. The general process is like that. It's like they're trying to profit off of it, so they're not going to provide any actual cures. They're going to provide things to try to just like help along. So we kind of have to move the medical system from being a profit and trying to just like help with or fix, instead of just like and moving it to healing, because we got to do that first. If we don't acknowledge it, then it's not going to do anything.
Absolutely.
Oh, so wait, is somebody gonna speak?
Jody,
I
you
got
got
it. Okay, so like I
I
got you.
was saying that is the capitalist scheme, though. This isn't really
Yeah.
like medically speaking, but it is somewhat related. It's kind of like the concept of recidivism, where like you kind of take out like the symptom as it is without like getting to the root cause of the problem because you want to keep it going. So Delia can say what she was
I was gonna say that yeah, in this capitalistic society, it's not very much we could do because they profit off of us being sick. Like if you look at any medicine that is advertised, the side effects are usually way worse than what you're actually going through. Like yeah, you might be fighting arthritis, but we can give you this medicine, but you might also fight lung disease and you might get cancer and you might die, but all in all, you won't be pain anymore. So,
And then the funny thing is, it's kind of like quicksand because you're taking a medicine for arthritis and now your bones are weak. So you're taking a bone, it's like a bone strengthener, but now you got diarrhea, so you're taking diarrhea medication, and you know
like that.
Now it's just weakening your immune system and you become dependent on these things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a cyclic nature of getting you sicker than what you already were so that you can keep coming back and so that you can keep funding the pharmaceutical system. But until we get out of that selfish type of mindset and get into the selfless mindset, and until our country can get the idea of delayed gratification versus instant gratification, where healthy workers will boost the economy instead of having everybody sick, then we will get in the mindset of actually healing people instead of hurting them.
And you know what? That actually makes me think kind of what you guys were talking about on Tuesday. That makes me think about what this whole matriculation out of, so into college, into medical school, and into allopathic or osteopathic medicine, whichever, just physicians in general, how is so disproportional. And if these are one of the intents, so like the conversation we're having now about these traditional remedies, are they, being the government and big pharmaceutical companies, are they thinking that all Black students think like this? Because then that would explain partly the school to prison pipeline. That would explain how HBCUs aren't really getting the funding that other public and private schools get. That explains how they are how Black students are the least likely to be admitted into medical schools. Even those with that affirmative action, like NYU has that affirmative action, free tuition to encourage minority students to apply and be a part of their program because they notice the disproportionality in the field. Yet the African American population is still at 7% out of that, fairly small medical school. And that would also explain how, just in general, physicians, black physicians are so focused, like they have the horse blinders on because this is what they grew up in. This is it. This is the Western hemispherical remedies that they're still treating the symptoms, not necessarily the entire person. And they think if we get wind of conversations like this, we're going to spread the word. People are going to stop pouring money into these pharmaceutical companies, and capitalism as we know it will be shut down and will be transforming into a different style of economy that does not favor what the United States wants at this point.
Now, I didn't mean to speak out of turn. Can I speak?
You don't.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if they thought that far ahead, but I will say that I don't doubt it. I feel like what you're saying is true, but I think they just really want to stop Black progress, period. And that all comes as a consequence of us progressing as Black people. And I don't, to be honest, they could have thought that far ahead. But the way I see it, it's way more like we don't want Black people to succeed. We don't want them to go back we don't want them to know the true history of themselves or know what we've taken from them or where they should be going, who they were, things like that. So it kind of all ties into or progresses into what you're saying. So like we would know that this system is wrong, that's wrong, this isn't right, this isn't what happened back then. And it really does. I think it's more simple, but either way, it does tie in both ways.
Okay. Cool. All right, cool. And then Dr. Quarles has this to say. He says, pharmacoeconomic. There we go. Pharmacoeconomics. A pharmaceutical marketing model is no margin, no mission. There's less profit with the cure versus chronic illness treatment, and that's really like the game right there. Is that there's no point in curing everything when the whole point of capitalism is profits. So if a person can come back to you for one thing and then another thing and another thing, you're making profit off of it. And we understand that pharmaceutical companies really are basically the COVID-19 vaccine, that the Pfizer one that they're shipping out to everyone, that's going to be paid. That's a private enterprise, but it was subsidized by the government, which basically means that that was tax dollars going into a private company so they can sell it back to people. And keep in mind, Black people won't be one of the first people to get this vaccine. So we see that they use Black tax dollars, a portion of Black tax dollars, to make a vaccine that Black people won't be able to receive. But eventually, they'll be able to charge it at a higher price, and then sell it back to Black people. So that's really what it is. So it's pharmacoeconomics, and that's what everyone's been touching on. It's a part of the capitalist system because under capitalism, there is no incentive to keep the worker alive because you profit off of the worker until eventually they succumb to the non-existent safety net or death, and then you profit off of them even more because they still got to eat, they still got to find something, and that's how we have this homelessness issue, the poverty issue, as well as crime issues as well. So it all comes back to capitalism, but we're gonna save that one because that's a fun topic. I enjoy this a lot. I love the energy and the intensity in the room. Like, you guys feel that? Like, that is power. That is power. I am around some powerful individuals. This is great. So now the next question here is that Mr. Wallace says that you're all very knowledgeable young people, which you are. And the next question here, when we speak of the Western medical empire here, and we talked about the history of medical atrocities, and those are all been made in advances towards science at the expense of Black people. But now we're looking and we see that this may be an opportunity to sort of situate ourselves here and ask, what will be Black people's contribution to the medical field, the global medical field, in the coming decades that does not come at the expense of Black people, not in the sense of unethical experiments on Black people, but in the sense of basically giving Black people vaccines, giving Black people medicines that won't really help them, giving them basically, how do we break away from the current pharmacoeconomic system and move to one that is actually extending the life expectancy of African people everywhere? Don't rush. My man, I see you.
Oh, I wasn't raised. I was.
I thought that was Jalen. That was Jalen.
Oh yeah, you were okay.
Bro.
That's that. Okay.
I think this type of progress. No, it looked like you were pointing to Obi, but
Yeah, I was so confused.
Never that. I will never.
You just pointed at me earlier.
No, I do this to you when I want to address you. I don't point at you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
A little tense in here. You know what I'm saying? It's a
Not at
little
all.
I don't understand.
energy.
Continue.
Jalen had a response.
yeah, but I think what you're asking is kind of what we've already started with us having a Democratic president after the atrocity that was 2016 to 2020. What happened with Warnock and Ossoff winning their seats, Georgia turning blue, we're making the progress that we need to. It may not be a direct matriculation and a direct contribution to kind of developing these safe medical practices for Black people, but it's certainly part of it. You know, this liberalist perspective that we're bringing to the government is inclusive of these safe medical practices, of kind of being aware what's happening with the economy, aware of the harms of capitalism. So I think this is going to be a slow process if we keep moving in this direction. This is going to be a slow process over the next few decades. And with that, with this progress that we're making in the government, comes progress within the medical field. So this process that we are enacting on and that physicians are using is kind of what they think is the end all be all, the only way to do things. But that's because this system has been in place for hundreds of years as medicine was developed in the Western Hemisphere. But we know as Black people and as like-minded humans that this is not the only way to go about medical practice. So I think with this progress that we are making, we are going to find another way to not experiment on Black people, to not exploit our people just to advance this allopathic medicinal system that we are feeding into. So yes, we're making the progress that we need to, and eventually we will create a system that will be beneficial for Black people.
And to piggyback off that, because I completely agree, I feel like a lot of the things that we thrive on, especially in this generation, is visualization and the imagery that we're seeing of all these powerful Black individuals, and not just any Black individuals, but Black people who are truly for Black issues, is something that is very empowering to us as we're coming up. And so I feel like we're going to start seeing a lot more Black physicians, a lot more Black medical professionals. And with that, as we all know, Black people since inception, we've always been very innovative, very creative. We can turn nothing into anything. And so I feel like as we get more into these spaces of power, and as we get more into all these different systems, we're going to implement not only ourselves, but our culture and our way of thinking and our innovation. And it's going to move us forward into a space where, like Jalen said, we're not going to have to experiment on people in general. They may come up with some type of AI type of thing where you can experiment on technology. Like the way that this world is going and this generation is going, it's endless, and it's almost hard to even put into words how fast and how clear of a way that this generation is making. So I'm excited for us. I know that a lot of us are going on different tracks, but I know that all of us are going to make a difference in some type of way. And I feel like the medical field is going to change because of that.
And just to comment real quick, it's great that you bring up artificial intelligence, and we see these advancements within that field, within the computer science field, the artificial learning, what is it called? AI/ML, artificial intelligence, machine learning. That whole field is making significant advancements. So not only with that facial recognition, so going away from, what the media is saying, all of these companies under fire for using people's faces when they're not giving consent. They're making contributions to the medical field. So like surgical robots, they're also making these like the dummies, for lack of a better term, that nurses practice on for like when they're in medical school, or no, nursing school, sorry. So these are the advancements that we're making, but I don't think it's getting the traction and the publicity that it needs, because of what we're talking about, why we're here, about this capitalist system, about how they're so focused on this one method. Any other advancement, they're going to use that in the way that brings them money. But there are significant achievements that have been made in this AI/ML field that will shy us away from to these safer practices. So I really like, Leah, what you brought up about that artificial intelligence measure, because I think that needs to be a part of just this worldwide conversation.
Anyone else before?
I would just like to say, Jamir, you're really giving us news reporter vibes with the smile. I really love the energy that you're giving tonight. It's giving.
Thank you. I let my hair down and everything, and I was like, we're going to take things in a new direction. Just bring the energy up. And that's exactly what you guys did here today. I am really excited. Thank you. Thank you. And I see that we're going in the vein of technological innovation. And I'm happy that we are, because now that we've spoken about how there are these technological advances, there's also the fact that the strides are being made, but Black people aren't seeing them. As Black Americans, we understand that
We broke.
That, yeah, like pretty much, like okay, for lack of a better word, yeah, we don't really have the capital to
That
act.
hurt. That hurt.
She
It's
said,
the truth.
I don't know who we is. You start speaking French or something. Really good. No, but
You just asked me for $1 the other day, bro.
that was off camera, bro. Come on now.
I paid for your plane ticket to California, bro.
Okay. Okay, listen. Do you want to be on the show next week? All right, then.
Not the threat.
Oh Lord.
Just a little jokey joke, but like Jody said, black people tend to not have the capital to access a lot of these medical innovations, especially with understanding that healthcare is restricted by money in America. And then looking outside of continental America, you have the Caribbean as well as Africa. They just don't have the capital or infrastructure to be able to use these technological innovations. So
and they would if it wasn't for economic sanctions. So we got
economic sanctions. But if they would just like, it's the economic sanctions, it's the loans that are pretty much illegal and usury, but whatever. And then there's the habitual coups that are happening. So we understand that African people around the globe won't really be able to access these technological innovations because of the fact that they're African. So what is one way that we can obtain these innovations so that we can extend our life expectancy as well, instead of being relegated and marginalized and left out of the progress of humanity when it comes to medicine?
Well, if we stay on the current track where they test anyway, we may.
Why Obi breathe in like that? It ain't saying
I'm sorry.
I thought Obi was about to spit some. He was like, he was about to go in.
You can go first. You go first, because.
But if we stay on the current pathway where they test everything on poor people anyway, we might be first in line to get tested on.
Chill out.
I'm just saying, they take the minority and marginalized communities and the stuff that they're not too sure about. They're like, if they die from this, are we really losing anything? And so they'll be like, yeah, we're gonna test it out on them. But on the flip side of that, being able to be in those spaces and getting more people that think like us here, where we think about the underdog, where we think about those people who need it the most, and getting us into the spaces where we can truly be impactful, like the medical field, we could be that voice of change, and we could be that voice of reason that be like, hey, there are some people here literally on their deathbeds that could benefit from this medical advancement, medical innovation, but they don't have the funding for it. So we can test it out on them. We can see what works, what doesn't work. We can do study groups. I know they pay people to get tested on, and a lot of poor communities need the money, so they end up getting tested on. So I feel like in a way they do test stuff on those poor and marginalized communities, just not in the most ethical way that it should be. It's not for the right reasons. Like, they're testing it on them just in case something goes wrong, they ain't losing it. But really they should be testing it on them so that they can live, if that makes sense.
No, most definitely. And it's like, it's a very predatory system. So
big pharma.
Pretty much it all comes back to capitalism, but in the sense of like making sure that Black people are able to receive these technological innovations. Truthfully, it comes in a number of ways. Infrastructural building. So, for example, Kenya, they have, well, if you've been watching the show, you understand the developments in Kenya and the fact that around Africa as a whole in the Caribbean, there's no real infrastructure there due to colonialism as well as imperialism and just European domination. So we understand that the need is for infrastructure to be able to access this technology. So I'm trying to like measure the words in the correct way. So,
Hey. Not they got old.
Bro.
Yo,
After you took that deep breath and just did
I'm
it.
saying they must have heard up here what he was thinking and said it was too powerful.
Spreading this rhetoric, bro. We can't make the medical field more accessible to people. We can't make it cheaper. No, we got to keep exploiting
We are
people.
pro-capitalism, and yeah.
But I think here's the thing. A lot of international students come here to study medicine because it's what the world thinks works. But they gain all of this knowledge. They're like sponges. They gain all of this knowledge. Some of them with the intent to go back to their countries and help them, only to realize their countries don't have the funding for these specific materials that they've read up on and they've been taught about. They don't have them. So what do? They don't go back. And so these people leaving their countries with the expectation of gaining this knowledge to bring back to their country, only to realize the country doesn't have the resources. But I think with the type of education system that we have in place, this is one of the few times that you will hear me say something positive.
They got him too.
What?
No way. No.
Yo, Jai, you
Hey, bro.
Wow.
Hey, I ain't even gonna lie to you. I'm a little scared now. Wait.
Gosh.
Wait.
We was just playing.
Oh man, is Obi gonna come back? I think Obi's out.
Yeah, we was just this is just a little junky joke.
Nah, I heard Prince wheezing for a second. I had to go check on him because I don't know if he okay or not. So.
Oh wow, I didn't even know Prince was still out there. Okay, cool. But like Jalen was saying, it was like, it's a brain drain, really. Where
this is one of the few things you will hear me. One of the very rare times you will hear me say something positive about education in America. Higher level education, not K through 12. K through 12 is completely. I'm talking about this college education. The way they train you, these top programs, this is the edge that the top programs have over the other programs. They teach you creatively, and they come from a more intersectional approach, academically speaking. So I think with everything that they're catering to for these students, they have the creativity to go back and figure it out, for lack of better words, because they know how it works. And it's just a matter of using the materials. That's all like medicine is in America. We are using what we have. And because of capitalism, we have a lot in comparison to other countries. So I feel like they're instilling this knowledge within them to go back and with all of this knowledge that they got, knowing how everything works, work with the materials that they have. So I do think it's possible. So we don't necessarily have to tap into that economic perspective. Well, how do they get more wealth to get X, Y, and Z that America has? I don't think it necessarily has to be centered around that. It's all about knowledge and how you use that creatively.
I agree with you in the sense that, like, being in America, it's a situation where the rich are taught different things. And a lot of the times when it comes to American education, the teaching isn't really like that well or adaptable to students' needs. So a lot of kids get left behind. And then the paywall of higher education, and you said that they teach people creative thinking and critical thinking, but I feel like that's all thinking is. They just add these different adjectives to it. But if you think about something, that's critical thinking. If you think about something, that's still creative thinking. And they don't teach children how to actually think. They just teach children how to follow specific directions, and that's the difference. Education doesn't teach.
Yeah, that's the distinction I've made between K through 12 education and higher education, because they kind of just throw you to the wolves in higher education. They expect you to know how to critical think, but as kids we weren't really taught that. So
absolutely.
But I think higher education.
The program says preschool to memorize, and then we get thrown into higher education. They're like, "Why can't you guys think freely?" And we're like, "What's that?" What is it?
Was a wake up call. Like I know how to do this, but I was never really taught this, so I kind of had to figure it out for myself.
Yeah, you go from having everything kind of paletted out for you, and you just put in slight ideas to you go to college, and they're like generate 6 pages off of this one word, and we're like,
the banking
where,
system,
like, what?
different conversation.
As a student and stuff, going to higher education.
Bet. And we'll put a pin in that one for the education episode, season 2. Don't worry about it. But I know, Jalen, you mentioned that there were a lot of these people coming from countries that don't have the same infrastructure or capital, getting an American education, and then they end up staying in America because they just feel like they're better off financially. And I think that shows that there's a two-pronged edge to this, because when you get an American education, it's not just they give you the textbooks and they give you the resources and skills, but you also get the ideology and the culture. And that one is very individualistic. So it's like, yeah, I came here so I could be a doctor for my people. But then as you were going through medical school, you started thinking to yourself, I can make a lot of money here and be a doctor here. And you forget completely about the people. And that's one of the issues that we have to really address, is the fact that a lot of the premier African minds tend to become indoctrinated into the Western/American system, where it completely loses the African nature of it, of community, of collectivity, and becomes more thing about me, mine, and mine. So it's like, not how do we, but in the sense of, if we're going to, that's one of the decolonizing the mind aspect of, you have to stay true to your morals and understand that your mission. And that introduces the fact of, how do we institute a medical code that is solely for the people? Because if you're a doctor, but you charge an exorbitant amount of money for your services, who are you really helping? If there are still people who are continuously suffering and dying in the streets because you charge 40 times what they make. And that's just a question that goes back to capitalism. And it all does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the final question here is that, within the context of seeing COVID-19 and understanding that this was a global pandemic, we understand that a lot of people have passed away, but the African continent hasn't really seen that much devastation due to COVID. It makes you wonder, what is it that's happening in Africa that can be adapted by people within the diaspora? Go ahead. You already know the question. Go ahead.
Because I already see where you're going with this. And one thing that the African culture has that we don't have is a certain people with a lack of pigmentation. So a lot of what happened in the COVID era for America happened because there were a lot of people who refused to follow the protocols because they felt like it was infringing upon constitutional rights. So instead of staying in the house for their health, they rather rally on the streets for a constitutional right that wasn't being infringed upon. So one thing that we could take from the actual African continent is the fact that to listen to the precaution that we're not only for other governments but medical professionals on how to self-quarantine, on how to self-medicate, and how to self-remedy so that we could stay safe and stop the spread of it.
And notice how, with we were talking about in Senegal, the curfew, the immediate response was not, well, what about me? I want to go out and party. I want to go out with my friends. I want to do X, Y, and Z. The first response was, how do I provide for my family? That's another concept that we need to adapt from the African diaspora. Not everybody is just concerned about themselves. People in Senegal are trying to figure out how they're going to make a living for themselves. Not go out and drink, go to the club, have fun. Screaming my constitutional right is being infringed upon and going out and partying, and it just baffles me. And I think we really do need to take that just common sense that the African continent has.
Yeah.
And I also, and I don't know if Kalia touched on this quite a bit, but I also wanted to add that American exceptionalism has played a large factor in that, because not only are just Americans really, really arrogant and they feel like they're invincible and like nothing can really touch them, they also feel that way about the country at large. And like the West at large. They feel like, oh, epidemics, pandemics, and diseases just overtaking entire populations and killing them. Oh, that only happens over there in the third world or in the exploited countries or in the developing countries. That could never happen, here in like my little superpower of a country we got here, where nothing bad ever happens to us. Yeah, they didn't really think that was going to happen until it actually came here in March, and then it killed 350,000 Americans and still continues to, because they feel like they're invincible and like it won't happen. To this day, they still feel like that because just when you bring up social distancing and putting on masks, what the response always is from that crowd is, well, I mean, it has a 99% survival rate, but still, we're a population of 300 million people, and a 99% survival rate means a lot of casualties. So it is what it is. I mean, people are going to be idiots.
That invincibility factor that a lot of Americans possess is very, very detrimental. We saw how it played out on the Capitol and how those events took place and went down. And so in order for us to even think about making any type of progress, Americans have to get to their mind that the American dream foreshadows the nightmare that happens in America. So they often forget about the tragedies and things that happen in America because they're so focused on how great America really is. So once people wake up from that dream that they're having, they'll be able to think about somebody other than themselves.
And I think another thing is America is very individualistic. So whatever they don't think about anybody else that's involved. It's like, oh, Slim Billy can't, I don't know, go to his work or go party with his best friends and like that. And it's like there's literal people live on the line, and they don't think about that, so they're going to wherever the profit is, or somebody else's benefit, and things of that sort. America doesn't think about other people. It's a one-person thing, and that's the entire issue. We can never get anywhere if people's only thinking about themselves and their own profit. So.
And really quick, just one other thing that I heard, shockingly, from a couple of our Caucasian counterparts, was the fact that they compared this pandemic, not epidemic, pandemic, to how America handled 1720 bubonic plague, 1820 cholera outbreak, 1920 influenza epidemic, and then now they're like, oh, they got through that. They didn't have a vaccine. They didn't have social distancing. Their masks, the masks that they wore, if you search up the plague masks, they're terrible. They're just not efficient at all. They look like beaks. It's crazy. And they're like, also, oh, they got through this. Yeah, good.
The plague mask the infamous plague doctors wore, they just had like herbs and things that smelled nice in the beak, just to mask the scent of death.
The smell of death. Yes.
Yeah, it didn't do anything. It was just because everyone was dying and their medicine was just like,
it was just a personal Febreze air fit.
No, like for real, like medicine before they exploited Africa, it was just like, hey, bro, like I'm gonna just take blood out of you to balance your humors, and we'll see how that works out. And then
the
old European way of curing things was just like, I'm gonna try this one thing, and if it doesn't, we got a bed for you to lay in until you transition over. That's all we got for you. You got this one shot, and that didn't work.
Old boy wouldn't have tried nothing. They just would have been like, everybody huddle together and pray and cough on each other real quick, and we'll just figure it out. Why do you think the plague spread so fast? Because everybody was in the same monastery and cathedral coughing and putting blood on each other.
You want to know some of the remedies for it? They cut the people because they thought the sickness was in the blood. They cut you open. Anesthesia wasn't a thing. God forbid any type of epi. None of that existed. They cut you open and let you bleed out, and it's like, oh, the sickness will go away. Are you kidding me? And you're comparing the 2020 COVID-19, Corona, SARS-19 pandemic to this? Absolutely ludicrous. I can't do that. That's something that in conversation, you have no response to that. Like, this is how people think. And I'm sure it wasn't just them. I'm sure it's not just the few people I talk to. It's a lot of people who think like this. And so they just go out anyway. What did you say?
Who did you talk to say this?
Listen, Let's just say these people are no longer in my life. Crazy.
Did they succumb to the virus?
No, absolutely not. But they don't care about the virus.
I'm really glad that we touched on that, because in a way to sort of wrap things up a bit, it's that Western medicine is very trial and error, and it's not as developed as people would have you believe, because a lot of medical expertise, especially in anatomy, was done by African people, because they understood that having a balance and understanding of the actual environment was necessary to live, and that understanding included herbs as well as other animals to be used to sort of sustain life. And there was no profit margin in that, because the profit was in the community, not these figurative ideals of money or anything like that. And surely not, bloodletting and just having leeches all over your body to cure a cold. So basically, when it comes to the Western medical empire and the Africana response to it, it's synergizing the benefits of Western medicine, which there have been due to the fact that technology has allowed so much progress and strides, but also synergizing that and synthesizing it with non-Western techniques, because they all serve the same purpose of healing the body. And the preventative course is, of course, but everyone gets sick. So it's like, once you do get sick, then you can take some of the medicines there. And I do say herb because it's an emphasis on the H. I don't want anyone to think I'm out here saying herb, because it's just weird. So I put breaths on my H for anyone at home wondering why I say herb like that. But
say Luthans.
Howard supremacy. See, like whatever. HU. But do we have any last words from our guests? Thank you.
This was did an H in school one time, can't stop pronouncing it. But no, but for real, Debbie, I would like to thank you for having us a part of this conversation. This conversation was very much needed, and I love all the different opinions and all the energy that was been given tonight. It was really up in my mood. I was tired earlier, but the younger people have definitely rising up my spirit for this last night. So I think that the bobblehead energy is really giving. It's giving.
Thank you. Jalen, Kimmy, any words, my people?
Thank you for having me on the show. I was on the show before, not this one, but things of that sort. So thank you for having me on here and stuff. Hope y'all enjoyed my dog acting up the entire time period.
Jalen.
Yeah. I want to thank you, Jagmeer, for first of all telling me about this whole thing. This is a great thing that you're doing, and I will definitely tune in to more shows, more topics. I was looking through this lineup. I was like, wow, this is some good stuff. But thank you for giving me a soapbox on this show, letting me spread my knowledge, and just doing this for Black people and people in general, having these much needed conversations. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad you was happy to use your soapbox on my platform, man. This is our thing. It's that HBCU love. And Jody, you got anything before we get a word from our lovely sponsors?
You already know how it is, bro. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to see y'all. Happy to talk to y'all, because it's always an insightful conversation when I'm on the HBCU Roundtable for 2050 and beyond.
Absolutely, so brother. Thank you. I'm glad that you waited to the very end to freeze like that, my brother. And before we yeah.
Are you sure I just wasn't frozen? Like I was frozen, bro.
You're back now. But we can see that the FBI and Big Pharma is on Jody internet like they was on OB internet. So we're going to get a word from these sponsors real quick. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And let's see, they're getting Jody already. And then after we do that, we'll be back for our HBCU recognition. So thank you to all of our panelists. And right now, we'll be right back.
Smart kids make our world better. At Heavenly Hearts, we believe that the right foundation is key to our future leader success. with our 4 key learning principles, which are inclusive learning environment, early exposure to financial literacy, community engagement, science and technology with engineering, art, and math labs will enrich each one of our future leaders as well as the community they are part of. In these unprecedented times, the $59 billion childcare industry has been dramatically impacted by the pandemic. Heavenly Hearts has currently implemented several advanced health and safety precautions to protect our children and staff at our current licensed facility in Chesapeake, Virginia. Our new location will continue to use advanced technology to protect our children from this and future threats to their health and safety, as our mission is to educate, empower, and equip our students with the necessary foundation to be holistically successful throughout life. We invite you to get involved. As an investor or community partner, you can help in a variety of ways. Contact Serena Mann at 757-254-8156.
There we go. Boom. So thank you for, chopping it up with us with this Western medical imperialism, as well as the Africana response to said imperialism. But now we have an actual response that's in the physical. It's an institution. It's a university. Yeah, that's right. It is our HBCU recognition. And that HBCU is none other than the STEM powerhouse. That's right. It is the medical field workhorse, the juggernaut when it comes to anything related into the pharmaceutical field for Black people. That's right. It is the Xavier University of Louisiana. And Zula, XULA, got its start in 1915 as a high school with the mission of acting as a college preparatory school on the former site of Southern University. And it served mainly Native American and African American peoples. And then 10 years later, in 1925, Xavier University added a College of Liberal Arts and Sciences and became an official university. So in 5 years, Zula celebrates its century. So 2 years after that, in 1927, Xavier added a College of Pharmacy, leading to its status as a premier STEM school within the nation. More than half of the current students at Xavier are majoring in the natural or health sciences, and Xavier students continue on the legacy of the school, with Zula being the #1 producer. That's not 2, 3, 4, 5. #1, uno, creme de la creme. #1 producer of Black graduates who go on to complete medical school in 2020. Not just go to medical school, but go all the way through, along with the College of Pharmacy being top 4 within the nation when it comes to producing Black people with PhDs in pharmacy. Zula is #1 in the nation when it comes to awarding bachelor's degrees to Black students in the biological and biomedical sciences, the physical sciences, and physics. Zula is #3 in the nation of Black PhDs who go on to earn a PhD in science and engineering disciplines as well. But you know what's really cool about Zula right there? Zula is one of the most affordable schools in Louisiana as well as the nation. So basically, they give us all of this information, all of these tools to prepare African people for working in the medical field at an amazing price. And this fantastic school has some great alum, and that is Ernest Morial, first Black mayor of New Orleans and a leading civil rights activist, graduated from Zula. Virginia Benjamin is an American physician and former vice admiral in the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps. Candace Stewart is a reality TV personality. So as we see, it's not just all about the meds. It's always, it's a mixture here. And Alexis Herman is an American politician who served as the 23rd U.S. Secretary of Labor. John Stroger was the first African-American president of Cook County, Illinois Board of Commissioners. Ivan Lamel is the judge of the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Louisiana. And Marino, the Godfather Kasim, who is a renowned college football coach with a record of 159 wins to 93 losses and 8 ties. All of them Zula grads and Zula proud. And that right there is our HBCU recognition. And that right there is Zula. So I thank everyone for chatting it up with me. This is the first week that we're actually doing 2015 Beyond in 2021. See what I did there? And I'm just having a ball. I mean, we're growing, as you can see. We ended the year strong. We're starting it strong as well. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with everyone. We're growing that HBCU family. We had Howard, we had Clark, we had Spelman, but I want to see a lot more. I want to see a lot more diversity because the HBCU family is huge, and that's what I want to see and just give back. But I've just had a phenomenal time being your host. As always, I'm Jai. Stay safe and make sure you tune in on next Tuesday, same time, same place, and I'm out.